Chapter 18 11 Days Till Christmas. Max was walking home from a hockey game when Cammy called, giving him the lowdown on her trip to Miss Sanchez's and her intel on the Von Wolfs. "The note is a great clue," Max said, feeling pumped up by the game and now the new lead on GB. "And that was some good spying on the Von Wolfs." "The Von Wolfs are definitely on the top of the list," Cammy said, ignoring his spy comment. "Mrs. Von Wolf could easily be the person who writes out all the notes. I was thinking we should go talk to them tomorrow after school." "Sounds good," Max said. "I'll be there." His skate bag was starting to slide off his shoulder, so he hitched it up. "Great," Cammy said. "Now I just have to figure out how to tell Joe. I don't have his phone number." Max sighed. It was time to hear Cammy say, "I told you so." "I'll tell Joe," Max said. "Wait, what?" Cammy asked, her shock like an electric current through the phone. "I wouldn't go so far as to say you were right, but he's not a bad guy," Max said. He held the phone away from his ear so that he wouldn't have to hear Cammy shout, "I told you so." When he brought it back a moment later, she was still talking. "So I was right, wasn't I? And it turns out my idea for you guys to go to the Bristers was a good one, wasn't it? I knew it." She paused. "What happened there anyway? Did you find anything?" Max sobered as he told Cammy about the shrine. He had just come into the main square and seen the angel tree, so filled with hope, somehow made the sad Brister house feel even more awful. "Maybe we can do something for them," Cammy said. Max could practically hear the wheels in her head spinning away on a new project. "Yeah, we could," he said. "But I still wonder if they're GB. Maybe after they lost their son, they decided to do something good, like he did, and they started the angel tree. I know the Von Wolfs look like they're the prime suspects, but I don't think we can eliminate the Bristers." "They're not suspects," Cammy said with an eye roll Max could hear in her voice. "But you're right that we should still consider them. Go tell your new best friend, Joe, that we're meeting up to check on the Von Wolfs tomorrow." After signing off, Max shoved his phone in his pocket. He realized he didn't actually have Joe's number, but he remembered that Joe had mentioned living over on the Lost Sock laundromat. And that was only a few blocks away, so Max figured he'd just drop by. He stopped on the corner of Montgomery and Main while Mr. Pink drove by, honking and waving as he went. As Max waved back, he noticed a bunch of new basketball supplies piled in the back of Mr. Pink's pickup truck. It was probably another angel tree wish. The Von Wolfs and the Bristers were definitely top suspects, but Mr. Pink was still in the race. The Lost Sock laundromat had a lone dryer spinning on the back wall when Max walked in and began searching for a way to get to the second floor. He finally found it outside, a small door on the side of the building, and headed up the narrow staircase, noticing that the steps were coated with dust and the paint on the walls were chipped. The excitement he felt at Cammy's news began to curdle into something that felt more like worry as he knocked on the door. A few moments later, he heard footsteps, and then Joe opened the door. "Hey," Joe said, smiling when he realized it was Max. "I think this is the first time anyone's knocked on the door since I moved in here. Come on in." Max walked into the apartment. "We're going to investigate the Von Wolfs tomorrow," he said. His voice trailed off as he looked around at the place where his friend lived. There was a sagging leather sofa, an ancient Barca lounger, and a rickety table off to one side. The carpet was stained, the walls were bare, and the only thing that looked truly clean was the large television standing on a flimsy black plastic stand. As he took it all in, Max noticed a mass under the table and for a moment thought it was some kind of body bag. But then reality checked in and he realized it was a sleeping bag. "You camp out?" he asked. Joe cleared his throat. "My uncle doesn't have another bedroom, so I sleep in here." "But why can't you sleep on the sofa?" Max asked. He had a vague sense that he was being rude, but his shock at seeing how Joe lived had robbed him of his manners. "My uncle watches TV pretty late sometimes," Joe said quietly. "It's easier to block it out and get to sleep if I'm over here." "That's just wrong," Max blurted out. "It's fine." Joe said it in the same quiet voice. "Can I get you anything to drink? I was going to make some cocoa." "Sure," Max said, still not able to understand why Joe had to sleep under a table. He followed his friend into the kitchen, where there was a half-size fridge and some shelves that were empty, save for a few packs of ramen, some cans of soup, and a big box of saltines. A microwave took up most of the scratched counter, and when he looked around, Max noticed a big patch of mold on one wall. He wouldn't have believed it possible, but he had actually stumbled into a place that made his family's current apartment seem like a palace. Max looked at his friend, who was carefully scrubbing out 2 mugs, and something twisted in his chest. "I can't believe this is where you live," he said. Joe's shoulders stiffened, but when he turned to face Max, he didn't look angry or sad or anything that Max knew he would be feeling if he stood in Joe's shoes. "Leon was the only one who could take me in, while my mom served," he said simply. "And dealing with this is nothing compared to what she's dealing with over there." Max had always thought of himself as tough, able to laugh off accidental hits in football, or fight hard for the puck in hockey. He had broken his leg, gotten stitches twice, and hadn't cried when the neighbor's dog bit him so deep he had to go to the hospital. But standing next to Joe in his quiet pride, Max felt like a complete cream puff, a pampered, spoiled kid who had always been taken care of, no matter what. He wanted to tell Joe that what he was doing was pretty incredible, that if he were in Joe's shoes he'd never handled it this well. But words like that didn't come easily to Max. Instead, he slapped Joe on the back and said, "So where's that cocoa?" And Joe smiled as he dried off the mugs and began to prepare their drinks.